Welcome to the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investing Show, where I interview the nation's top real estate entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and other amazing entrepreneurs to help educate and inspire you to take your business and your life to the next level. My goal is to add tremendous value to you during every single episode of this show. If you get value, I'd love it if you subscribe on your favorite podcast player, subscribe on YouTube, and my very favorite, please share this with your community so we can impact even more entrepreneurs. Let's start today's show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm here with the one and only Michael Zuber. We're going to be talking about why a lot of people are wrong about 2025 and how this is going to be the best year ever. So it's going to be an exciting conversation. He's done some research. He's got a plan to share with you guys today how this is going to be the best year ever. If for you naysayers out there, you might want to just turn it off right now, maybe. I don't know. So, Michael, good to see you, buddy.
Oh, nice to see you as well, Mike. I really appreciate the opportunity. I love what you guys do at Investor Fuel. I have lots of friends that are in the program, and they say nothing but amazing things about you. So always an easy answer to say yes.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, hey, before we jump in, I know your book, One Rental at a Time, has been very successful and kind of helping people kind of get started with owning rental properties. I always say that the two biggest regrets, I mean, I talk to everybody. I know everybody in the industry, right, or for the most part. The two biggest regrets I ever hear is they wish they'd started earlier and they wish they'd kept more rentals. Those are the two biggest things. And so, but anyway, we know how you feel about it, but tell us a little bit about your background, how you got here.
Yeah, I think One Rental at a Time is an interesting movement because it really focuses on W-2 employees. A lot of the, real estate landscape and the gurus really push the entrepreneurship envelope, which is awesome. But as Ed Milet said one time, only about 90% of us are employees and only 10% are entrepreneurs. So it sometimes gets lost out there. I have a lot of employees like myself who sometimes feel slighted or missed or ignored. And again, I had a high paying job, right? My best utility of time was out there selling enterprise software, which could have a 7 to 8 figure price point, of which I would make hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I was uniquely positioned with some unique opportunity to go do that. And as long as I was able to live below my means, stack cash, I could buy assets. So that worked for me. Some people, you got to start a business, you got to be an entrepreneur, and you stack paper that way. But I definitely, model an employee. And a lot of people kind of follow the one rental at a time because I think a lot of people, if you just got to 4 rentals, not 400 and certainly not 4,000, you fundamentally changed your retirement picture, right? And that's what most of us are going after. And, I've never had some big grand vision. I just wanted to get to enough, maybe enough times 2 or enough times 3. And thankfully that occurred in 2018. And I've enjoyed the last 7 years doing what I want, when I want, with whom I want. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And your comment on if you own just 4. So obviously a lot of people talk about rentals and they talk about this a lot less these days because they just don't cash flow all that well. I know yours are in California. I don't know your situation, but I'm guessing they're even harder to cash flow generally. But it's really, there's obviously principal pay down and just long-term appreciation, right? And so I have a single-family rental portfolio as well as multifamily, but the single-family side has been, they never cash flowed as well as I had hoped, but the appreciation's been ridiculous, right? For me, that's really over the past 10 or 12 years. But is that when you say that, you're talking about just changing your overall net worth with appreciation, principal pay down, like all those things?
Well, really what I'm talking about in this example of 4 is the average employee, again, which I was, whose vision of retirement is working till 65 and only having a 401k. If you simply added having 4 rental properties and then you amortize that over 30 years, you end with retirement and 4 free and clear assets, which you have options. You can borrow against, you could sell, you could live on the cash flow. It's just about having more options. My grand vision, Mike, for starting rental properties was I wanted to have a better retirement than most. And 4 rental properties get there. Now, let's be clear. 4 rental properties will not retire you in 2 years or 4 years. It just won't happen. But that's not the vision I think most employees have. Most employees are like, hey, I'm going to work to 65. I'm going to put away and get the company match. But I want something else just in case, or I want to have that cherry on top. And if you buy 4 rental properties in your 30s, they'll be paid off in your 60s, and you'll have better options.
Yeah. That's awesome. So there's a lot of folks that are, the country is obviously divided in a lot of ways right now, right? But I think divided quite a bit into where we're going. And there's some people that think that there's amazing things ahead, but some people have pushed that off into the future, like, hey, we got to go through these periods of pain. And there's also people that think that the world is about to end. And so where I found is where there's pain and there's, discomfort, there's opportunity as well, right? And so what are your thoughts on what folks are saying versus 2025, what's going to happen in 2025 versus, what you believe?
Well, I think all of that is true, but if you step back and you realize that most of the people that watch our content, yours and mine, we're real estate investors. And if you're a real estate investor, let me give you a couple rules of thumb. One, you want less competition. Fact. Number two, you would like more motivated sellers. Fact. Well, in an environment of 2025, where we have a new administration, we have tariffs, we have talk of recession, we have high prices with high interest rates, we have falling demand across all kinds of segments. I believe real estate investors, if you get your head on right and you do the work, you're set up to have an amazing 2025. Now, if you're a homeowner, if you're trying to buy your first home or whatnot, it sucks. Affordability is not a record, but damn close, right? 1981 is still the worst year on record, but it's not good. So I really speak to the real estate investors, and I'm like, folks, you stop listening to the headlines. Let me remind you. Do you want less competition or not? Yes or no? Yes, I want less competition. Do you want more motivated sellers? Yes or no? Yes, I want more motivated sellers. Congratulations. 2025 is handing you both that on a silver platter.
Yeah.
I think 2025 will be one of the best buyer's markets for investors. And now let me be clear. I never recommend paying list price. Dude, I negotiate on new construction, right? The house that I bought in Vegas, I got more than 10% off. I got a mortgage rate buy down to sub 5 when rates were 8 or 8.5. I got a bunch of credits, no lot fee. I negotiated like a crazy man. You can negotiate on new builds. So I'm not talking about going to the MLS and just buying anything. This is not 2021. But get your head on right, right? Lots of disrespectful offers, right numbers that cash flow with 30-year debt at 6.5, and just do the work, man. Stop being a whiny little cry little bitch. It's crazy out there.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I started in 2008 and very different market for sure, but there was kind of blood in the streets, and it turned out a lot of people thought I was crazy, that my wife and I were crazy. The truth is we were naive. We didn't plan it. Like, that's just, I got fired from my job, and my wife had left to have our son, who was 1 year old when we started her job. And so that's just where we entered at. It just coincidentally, it wasn't like planned, right? But it turned out to be one of the best times ever to get in. And there was more motivated sellers and less competition. Everybody else was running away. And a lot of the pros that I know now, a lot of friends of mine now, at the time, they thought we were absolutely crazy. But I was like, well, we were just crazy like a fox, I guess.
No. So Olivia and I started in 2002, so we saw the run up firsthand. Right, we had 8 houses in 2006 ish, and we went to an event put on by Bruce Norris, who at the time was a California legend, now lives in Florida. Yeah. But he called it the California Crash. And I went to that event, Mike, because I had 5 or 6 years earlier lost 80% of my wealth in the stock market, right? I had turned $7,000 into almost $200,000 only to lose 80% of it. Yeah. So I didn't want to do that again, right? We were a millionaire in 2006 on 8 homes. And I'm like, dude, this guy's talking about a California crash. So we went to that event. We agreed with them, and then we took action. So we sold all our houses in '06 at the peak, and we 1031 into apartments. We went from 8 to 80 units. Then the crash happens, and we start buying hand over fist. Had no idea where the bottom was. We started buying at 100, and we bought all the way down. The last house we bought was $28,000, right? The cheapest house we bought. So it was a fun time.
Yeah, I just saw a Facebook post, like one of the memories that I posted like a long time ago now. It was probably 12 years ago or so. that we had just picked up a house for $500 in Dallas. I was like, this is the cheapest house I've ever bought. The truth is, we had lots of people that are willing to give us their house, but it wasn't even worth it. So that was the most that or the cheapest that we'd ever paid for a house. But yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, some comparisons to the past. I know you've been doing some research and kind of looking at a lot of data to kind of come up with why this is going to be a great year. Like, what have you come up with?
Yeah, so one of the things that I do, so I have an econ degree and MBA, and I've been studying the economy for the better part of 3 decades. Something I did in 2021 is I started taking economic statistics all the way back to 1970. Home prices, unemployment, interest rates, inflation, all of like 30 different metrics. I called it the 50-year spreadsheet. It's now been updated. It's the 55-year spreadsheet. But one of the things that this allowed me to see when Jerome Powell at Jackson Hole, I think it's been 2.5 years, basically said pain is coming.
Yeah.
And rates are going much, much higher. I was able to look back into the spreadsheet and identify the last time that happened. And that started in 1980 when Paul Volcker started yanking interest rates higher. And by having that spreadsheet at my disposal, I was able to answer a couple of questions correctly that most people got wrong. Most people said something like, if interest rates go up 1%, home prices have to fall 10%. Right? It logically makes sense. Affordability gets that much worse. Unfortunately, we saw interest rates go up 300 basis points, and thus people were saying we were going to crash 30%. I said, no. Given history, the only thing that's going to crash is transactions. And I said to people at the time that I thought transactions would crash to 4 million. They actually broke 4 million. So we did have a real estate crash. It was in transactions, not price.
Yeah.
Which we got
But what
right.
do you think holding prices up?
Well, there's a couple of things that are holding price up. First, we have to realize what is price. So price on most measures is something called median price. And if you understand math, median is nothing but the middle. Right? So if you lay out a series of 100 numbers, just 1 to 100, or maybe 1 to 101, the median is 50. What we have done, and what happened in the past, this is why there's historical context, when you take rates from very little to very much, the people at the low end don't sell because they can't get a yes answer from the bank, right? They want to move up. The only reason they got a yes answer is because their mortgage rate's 3%. They can't sell this asset, buy the next one at another $100,000, but at 7%. The bank says no. So what we have done for the last 3 years is we have broken the housing market.
Yep.
The housing market is very much entry level, move up, luxury. We have taken the move up buyer out of the market. So what's happening? Only the luxury stuff is transacting. So if you're only transacting above the median moves because that's just how math works. You've seen a lot less low-end homes or entry-level homes transact because we're frozen. Yeah. And you've seen rich people transact. So that's it's one of the reasons the median price is so high is because we have a broken housing market.
Yeah, I've been saying something similar to you, but differently without the data is like, if you think of, for us as distressed, I mean, my whole real estate investing career has been marketing to distressed sellers that might sell at a deep discount, right? Like we don't buy on the MLS, we don't buy even generally from other wholesalers or anybody else, just direct to seller. Sure. Is that half of that market, I've just made up a number, but half of that, half of those like would-be sellers is still happening. It's people that are in distress, death, divorce, inheritance, problem, landlords, distressed landlords, tired landlords that want to sell, that it's not their primary house. They're selling that. But the people that would sell to investors like us at a deep discount for convenience reasons, where they need some other place to live, that's stopped because they can't afford the next place.
Exactly right. That's exactly what's going on the low end. And this is why you're going to have a great year if you're a real estate investor, is because that first 50%, that always happens. Let me give you again some statistics and this might blow your mind and blow your audience mind, but you can go look it up. It's you can go either directly to St. Louis Fed or you can go to my 55-year spreadsheet. In 1978, we did roughly 4 million existing home sales. Okay? That's when interest rates start going up. First guess for you is, how many homes do you think we transacted in 1981? So 4 years later.
Sure.
So just call it 2 million.
Okay.
Transactions went down 50%. So that's what gave me confidence that we were going to go from 6 to 4. And we got that right. But here's the joy. From 1981, how long do you think it took us to get back to 4 million? Remember? 4 million to 2 million. 78, 81. How long until we were back above 4 million existing home sales? Wild guess.
10 years?
1996.
Oh, wow.
So think about that. So what does that mean for today? Well, it means for today that I believe 2025 is going to be the cycle low for existing home sales. Something at or just below 4 million. So I'm below Redfin, I'm below Zillow. They're calling 4.1 and 4.3. I'm calling 4 million or below. But if you're a real estate agent, you're escrow, you're an appraiser, you're somebody that gets paid a drip on every transaction, all you have to do is survive 25, let all the dead weight and the pretenders disappear, and then you're going to be at a Vegas buffet in 26, in 27, in 28, in 29, because every year will be better than the year before. This is what history says. So 2025, year of the investor. We do the work. We find motivated sellers, people in distress. We write deals that make sense. And then things get incrementally better in 26, in 27, in 28. That's what I see coming. And this is based on history because we have jacked up rates before. We have seen housing transactions crash. And then we just go from there.
So, Michael, you're more of the buy and hold guy. I know you don't do a whole lot of fix and flips and wholesales, a little bit, but not a ton. So for the full-time real estate investor, for the W-2 type investor, this is fine because they have a base income, right? For the active investor, they have to be transacting in something and earning income. So what are they to do? I mean, obviously there's some competition going away, and arguably that 50% or number in my head that I said that was like the distressed is going up. I mean, we know there's a lot of pre-foreclosure activity stuff. There's an aging population. There's a lot of things that are creating more opportunities for discount real estate investors. But in the meantime, they've got to pay the bills. And so is it just a matter of kind of getting lean and mean over the next couple of years?
So I have a lot of real estate investor friends. We know a lot of the same people. And what I'm telling all of them is, you got to change your buying model a little bit, right? Your buying model on this house, let's say, ARV is 400 and your model says you can buy it for 225. I'm telling you to get it at 210 or 205 because what you're going to have into this environment, again, because you got to get out of this thing as well, is you're going to probably have longer hold times. You're going to have a smaller pool of buyers in 2025. Yeah. So if you're looking to get in and out in 2025, please buy with a little bit more margin because a lot of folks out there, the carrying costs could kill you. So buy a little better, right? You may be operating in an environment where you have evidence that you could be in and out in 6 months. I would plan for 8. And hey, be happy if I'm wrong. But I do think the environment in 25, as I've said a couple of times, is going to be the cycle low. We're going to have consumers that are scared. We're going to have layoff notices. And very few people have the appetite to sign up for their biggest purchase of a year when they're afraid for their jobs. So what I'm telling the professional investors is just buy a little deeper. And then, in 26, you can maybe you go back to the old model, but you got to get through 20. You got to survive 25. You can't go bankrupt.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things that, obviously you're big on the buy and hold stuff. You talk about building a rental portfolio. That's one of the things that, I never looked at as with my rental portfolio. Like for most of the time that I've had them, which I started, most of my single family rentals I bought from 09 to 2013 or 14. Great time to buy, right?
Not bad.
And then I was like, man, I can't buy them like I used to, so I'm just going to move into multifamily ultimately. But anyway, and that's gotten hard too. So another lesson there that I talk about, whatever's easy now will too get hard at some point. So,
Amen. Yes.
But my rentals, at some point I started to look at them as an insurance policy. It's like they were a pain in the ass. And then I was like, this is interesting. It was usually around tax time when I see the tax values going up and I'm like, that can't be worth that. And sure enough, it is.
Yep.
And I start to realize that, hey, I'm wealthy on paper, right? But it's an amazing insurance policy. Like if everything goes to pot, if my whole life falls apart, like I have a lot of equity in my rentals that we can, harvest and stuff like that. Of course, they cash flow more than they ever did because they're largely paid off. But it really is an insurance policy for me and for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, you could call it an insurance policy. I've also heard it referred to as a piggy bank. I think either is true. Because, one of the things that, again, I love telling people what I'm doing. One of the things that I'm looking at is taking advantage of this opportunity. Now, I have two markets that I'm looking at. The market that I've historically been in, Central California, I'm looking to perhaps jump on some larger multifamily opportunities, right? I would love to pick up a 50 to maybe 100 unit building. I don't have partners. This is just my wife and I. So no, I'm not a GP. No, I don't want my life any harder than it is, so I don't do that. But I would love to pick those, a 50, 60, 80 unit building at a distressed valuation. And again, I've done this already. We bought apartment buildings for nothing down in the last cycle. So, we have those relationships. But to your point, I have a bunch of single family assets with seven figures, multiple seven figures in equity that I will go tap as a piggy bank to go transact there, right?
Yep.
I might 1031, right? We talked earlier about going from 8 houses to 80 units. That was all 1031 money. That wasn't new. I have zero new capital.
Yeah.
So I have a lot more than 8 houses today. There's nothing better, Mike, that I would love to do than pick a number, 30 single family homes and go get 300 units. I would love to do that again. So I think that opportunity is coming. It's probably 2026 because we have a lot of extended pretend, hold and pray going on by the lending institutions. But that money can't stay dormant forever. That pain is coming. Class B and Class C is not trading. Class A is trading. It's trading at a 25% discount. I think Class B and Class C will go 40 or more. So I look forward to being a buyer when that happens.
Yeah. That's one of the nice things about like having some wisdom, having done this before is like, I think a lot of people that get started, especially if they're wholesalers, like they're on the transaction treadmill. Like they have to transact. Otherwise they don't eat. Right.
Yep.
And I think once you have a little more experience, you've got some cushion, maybe because you have multiple streams of income, you have a rental portfolio that you could tap into, a piggy bank if you want to, is it gives you the ability to sit on the sidelines and wait for opportunities to come to you instead of you chasing opportunities. Right.
Amen. No, there's a piece in that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, I don't have to do business anymore. I don't have to work anymore. But I'm an opportunist. I'm going to wait for opportunities to come up. And there's always market cycles like this. I think the last one took way longer than what anybody expected. And that's probably what's going to cause a little extra pain this time is it was delayed for maybe too long, right?
Agreed. No, I think we're seeing more and more of it in the single family area. There's some nonsense going on with FHA mortgages and movements of silent seconds and whatnot. So I think there's some single family pain coming to FHA area. I would definitely be doing some NOD marketing to that kind of stuff if I was in that game. But we will have a real estate crash. It's going to be in commercial real estate. Multifamily will have pain. Class A is trading. Class B and Class C is frozen. That will unlock, and it will be bloody. There are lots of LPs that are in syndications that have already lost their money. They just don't know it. It's coming.
Yep. Let's talk about like what do you think is going to happen over the next 10 years? We've alluded to some of it, obviously, right? But like, where do you see things going for in the real estate market for the next 10 years? Let's say single family.
Yeah. So if we stay in the residential space, the good news is if you are in the business and you're paid on a transaction, every year the next decade is better than the year before. After 25, right? 25 is the cycle low, in my opinion. So that's good news, right? If you can survive through this, your teams get bigger, you do more transactions, you have less competition. Life is good. So that's all, that's appraisers, that's escrow, that's everybody involved. It's just better from there. I think price is probably still flat for the next 3 to 5 years. I believe every decade has about 10 to 12% appreciation. We got a lot of that in 21 and 22. So I think we have a flat decade, roughly speaking, for home prices. So that's what I think is coming to residential.
Yeah. And it depends largely on market, right? Like obviously some markets are different than others and, in some markets
national,
right. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I think the big opportunity is for home builders. One of the things that I hope happens in the next decade is really two things. One is I think home builders find a way, perhaps with government assistance, to build entry-level housing. We haven't had an entry-level housing boom since the 70s. And some argue the 50s, which
Yeah.
is really scary to think about, right? Home builders today can only build McMansions because that's all where the profit lies.
Right.
That's a crime. So I hope something happens there. The second thing I hope for is we haven't really had any innovation in building. I don't know if that's container homes or 3D homes or, boxable or whatever it is. I hope there's some innovation in home building that we get away from this stick built and, everything takes, 6 months to build or what.
Yeah.
So
Something
I hope
that's
there's
easier to
innovation.
construct and more cost
Yeah.
effective.
Faster and cheaper.
Yeah.
We do have a housing affordability problem. I hope technology is one of the cures for that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be disruption in that space. Yeah, obviously there's been a lot of disruption even in the realtor marketplace. I mean, I think, I hate to, for our realtor friends that are listening to this, like, sorry, but most people go find their house online and then just find a realtor to go do the transaction for you for the most part, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it this morning. It looks like Rocket Mortgage is going to be a vertically integrated company. So Rocket Mortgage at the beginning of the month bought Redfin.
I saw that, yeah.
Yesterday or this morning, they bought Mr. Cooper.
I saw that.
Think about what Rocket now has. You have any interest in a house? Redfin's there to help you. You need a mortgage? Rocket's there to help you. You want to service the mortgage? Mr. Cooper is there to help you.
Yeah.
Rocket Mortgage, assuming both of these close and they don't have any, issues closing, are going to be the first vertically integrated soup to nuts residential, whatever they're going to call themselves. And
Yeah.
that actually unlocks a lot of creativity. So Rocket Mortgage could create brand new mortgage products that we haven't thought about, right? They own the entire cycle.
Right.
So I look forward to what Rocket could do with Redfin and Mr. Cooper. I think it's going to be disruptive. So we'll see.
Well, that's what all the iBuy. I mean, it's different but similar. What all the iBuyers were doing is like, which I never really understood that. Like they're overpaying for houses generally, but they're like, well, they're making money on insurance. They're making money on transactions. They're making money a lot of different ways. And so I think more real estate investors should think that way as well. How else can you monetize what you're already doing, right?
Yeah, I think the iBuyer is an interesting conversation. When you have known wholesalers laughing at bringing you inventory, that's probably means you're overpaying.
Yeah.
I was in plenty of those rooms where people were just like, I can't believe Open Door paid this or so-and-so paid that. It was a wild time.
No doubt. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about what your plans are investment-wise. You talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But just basically being an opportunist, looking for opportunities as they come along, probably leaning more into multifamily, it sounds like, than single family, or?
Yeah, so I have two tracks I'm currently executing on. One is I am in a new market, right? We did move to Nevada. I am going to build a small, we're talking 2 to 10, single family homes rental portfolio in my new market. So that's happening. I think that happens regardless of where we're going. I'm actively looking for deals now. My buy box today is something in the Henderson area that's single story, has enough to add an ADU because basically what I'm finding in Vegas, it's hard to cash flow with just the main house. So I'm looking to break even on the main house and cash flow on the ADU. So that's what likely I'll be building the portfolio there. So I think that happens over the next 2 to 5 years. I get to my 8 units or so. But in my main market where I have my team, I have the majority of my infrastructure, I'm actively networking with commercial brokers because that's where I believe the pain is coming.
Yeah.
They're telling me about owners and syndications in distress, but as long as the bank doesn't force a sell, there's a lot of extend and pretend. So at this point, I'm just networking like a madman. I'm trying to get to know the top 20 commercial agents in Central Valley, and I will be picking up, speaking it into existence, somewhere between 100 and 200 units between today and 2027. All distressed, all at 40% off or more, all with really no cash. I'll be either using debt from singles or 1031s to get into. So, our portfolio could double pretty easily, should it happen. But there's a risk to that. You never know. Banks might just extend and pretend for a decade, at which point the pain never comes. But I don't think it's possible, but I'm willing to admit it's possible that they extend and pretend forever.
Yeah. I think with this administration, they're less likely to do that than maybe the previous one, right? Yeah.
Amen.
Yes, there's just so much government kind of waste that's being cut out, right? That's used to propping stuff up. So, but we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, exactly. So again, if the opportunity, because again, our big leaps in wealth was moving from residential to multifamily. Was buying multifamily at 50% or better discounts, holding through some tough years. Right, buying an ugly property that's in ugly position is 2 years of hell.
Yeah.
But once you get through that, it's really nice. So wouldn't mind doing that again.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Michael, if folks, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Sure, of course. I like it. It's always fun.
If folks want to connect with you and learn more about what you've got going on, where can they go?
I would go to YouTube. I have a YouTube channel with nearly 7,000 subs called One Rental at a Time. If you want to hear about my 15-year journey from one house to retirement, you can always buy my book on Amazon, One Rental at a Time. Shouldn't be hard to find.
We'll add links for all that stuff down below here. So thanks again for spending some time with us today.
You got it, Mike. Take care. Good luck.
Yeah. Folks, hopefully you got some good lessons here from today, really good knowledge. I think at the end of the day, wealth is built over time. So you have to make sure you're not so focused on immediate gratification that you lose out on opportunities that you can transact today and make your money over a long period of time. That's where wealth is really built. So appreciate you guys. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show. Thanks for joining us for today's show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing on your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. You can also check out the show's notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and even how to work with me directly one-on-one. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. See you on the next show.